The Switch is host to all kinds of experiences. Some are deep, emotional adventures with sprawling worlds and beautifully crafted narratives that tug at your heartstrings and teach you things you never knew about yourself along the way. Some are mindless popcorn flick-style action games that are a great way to relieve some stress. And some are about harassing a groundskeeper until you finally throw his rake into a lake. Untitled Goose Game by House is the latter. The game begins innocently enough, inviting you to press Y to honk. Once you do, a short tutorial in which you make your way out of your home instructs you on the basics. You can press ZL to bend down, A to use your beak to grab objects, ZR to spread your wings, and B to run. Those are all the tools you have for the entirety of the game, though you'll have to use them in creative ways to get ahead. Goose Game controls remarkably well, and its physics and sound design are incredible. Objects behave the way you'd expect them to in the real world. When you drag a rake, you can hear its tines dragging along and the handle bounces along the ground as you drag it. I was impressed by the attention to detail for such a silly game with a cute cartoonish art style that feels as though it'd be right at home in a children's storybook. Once you're out of the small tutorial area and into the lake that some poor soul's rake will inevitably end up in, you're given a to-do list. And that's the precise moment it dawns on you. You're a bad, bad goose. The first list outlines various ways in which you're to inflict frustrations and suffering on the first of several humans you encounter, but it doesn't tell you how. Objectives are left intentionally vague. One of them says, get the groundskeeper wet, and there are a number of ways you can do that. You can lure him over to a sprinkler inside his garden, then turn it on, or you can just steal something he's attached to, like his radio or keys, and force him to run after you into the lake to get it. This theme of finding your own way to do things is persistent throughout the entire game. In one section you're tasked with getting into a pub. One of my colleagues climbed into a box and hid inside until someone carried them through the entrance, where I opted to use my beak to untie the doorman's shoelaces, causing him to trip as he tried to shoo me away. Despite the fact that you're very clearly the bad guy, you're never being truly evil, and the things you do seldom feel malicious. Instead, I felt like a mischievous goose inadvertently causing consternation to people that happen to get in the way of my interests of, well, annoying people. I don't think I've ever laughed as much at any game as I have at Untitled Goose Game. Every time I'd finish another to-do, I'd make my goose honk and flap as if it was celebrating its small victory. I found myself sometimes doing things that weren't objective-based at all, simply because the in-game people's reactions to my misdeeds were hilarious. As you cross off each evil deed on your to-do list, you'll eventually get one of the people you're harassing to put up a no geese sign and open a gate, encouraging you to move forward. In this way, Untitled Goose Game is linear as you unlock new areas each time you complete a to-do list. There are 5 areas in total, and your first run through the game should take you about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how easily you complete each task. Each area increases the difficulty a bit as well. Where you deal with just one groundskeeper in the first area, the next section, High Street, contains a little boy, a shopkeep who's pretty aggressive with her broom, and an electronics store clerk, all of whom you must bother in some way or another. One of my favorite objectives takes place here. It's just called Get on TV, and while I won't spoil the puzzle for you, it ends up a little something like this. Perhaps due in part to its short length, Untitled Goose Game never feels as though it's reusing gimmicks or puzzles. Every new to-do came with a fresh set of challenges and required a different approach. Whether I was trying to drop a bucket on someone's head or sneak a pint glass out of a pub unnoticed, I never felt like it was something I'd done before. A lot of the challenges in the game require you to take a stealthy approach so as not to have whatever you're trying to abscond with taken away from you, but I seldom found that to be too difficult, save for the final portion of the game during which things get a little more complicated for our water-faring villain, and the difficulty ramps up considerably as a result. Without venturing too far into spoiler territory, the AI in the game's final section becomes acutely aware of your presence, and everyone is bent on chasing you down, meaning you have to be both quick and stealthy, with a new unique constraint applied on you that helps people find you. It's more challenging than the rest of the game, but it was a fun experience with an excellent payoff at the end. When you finish the game, a familiar prompt appears on screen. Press Y to honk. When you do, you're greeted with 4 new pages of to-dos, adding hours to your playtime. Think of it like a New Game Plus, but with completely new missions. All your previous paths are unlocked and you can travel freely between them, and for the first time you'll have objectives that require you to travel between areas, fundamentally changing the complexity and nature of the game. I went into Untitled Goose Game expecting a lighthearted, fun time with some laughs along the way, and I got so much more than that. The meticulous attention to detail in physics and sound threw me for a loop. The subtle humor from the way people react when they see you nearby or become nonplussed by your bad behavior, to even smaller things like the fact that you can honk into a walkie-talkie and have it come out the other end to startle people, had me in stitches. I noticed no frame rate or performance issues to take me out of my enjoyment, and I laughed throughout the game's admittedly short runtime. Initially, I was worried Untitled Goose Game would be too short, but the surprise introduction of new to-do lists considerably extended the playtime, especially if you intend to complete them all. The additional challenges offered in the post-game have me coming back to solve more puzzles and ruin more days, and even as of writing the review, I'm not ready to put it down. Hey! Give that back! No! Shoo! Where were we? Okay. I absolutely love Untitled Goose Game. It's a small, fun game whose brevity keeps it from reusing ideas and thus makes the entire experience feel fresh. If you're into silly games that aren't trying to be anything more, you're probably in for a honking good time. That about wraps it up for our review of Untitled Goose Game on the Nintendo Switch. As always, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to Game Explain for more reviews like this one. Also, make sure to ring that notification bell to be notified every time we upload a new video. We'll see you next time. Bye!